don't suck that bad.
Ready sucks?
I don't suck, right?
Take 3.
Also, before we start, I'd like to quickly thank everybody that... You're distracting me, Daniel. Maybe better help y'all explain it. See, I keep diving into the thing too much.
It probably sucks.
Yeah. What's going on, Faded Culture? It's Sergio Barron, and we're back again with another haircut tutorial. Today we got my nephew here who's in dying need of a haircut, and I will be showing y'all my step-by-step process on how to do a low skin fade with some shear work on top. Also guys, before we start, I'd like to quickly thank everybody that's been visiting us at fadedculture.co and buying up our merch. If y'all haven't, please feel free to check it out and shop some of our t-shirts that we have up for sale. Also guys, if y'all do like this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments what y'all did and didn't like about the video, or also maybe some suggestions about what other video we should do on our next video tutorial. So with that being said guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video and let's just jump right into it. Alright guys, so let's jump right into this. Like always, I like to dampen the hair and kind of comb the hair in the direction that it naturally lays before we actually start doing our scissor trimming. Next, what I'm gonna do is kind of separate the crown area from the top of the hair first. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull out about a finger in width of a section, as you see here. And that's exactly how much of a section I will first pull up. And you'll see that when I pull it up, I'm only cut his hair to about a finger in length. So you see that I'm gonna lay down the finger from the scalp, and everything that hangs over that one finger is what I'm gonna trim away. And then I'm gonna just repeat that same step, coming up about another finger in length forward, and again just trimming anything that hangs over my first finger from the scalp up. And then we're just gonna repeat that process until we reach the front of his head, and everything down the middle section is trimmed up to about one finger in length. Take your time guys, and do be sure that you are moving up about only a finger in length up at a time. The closer you are to your previous guideline will result in a more even cut up throughout the top. Next, what we're doing is basically starting again from the back, but this time moving over to the right side section of his head. And again, just like before, grabbing about a finger in length, and this time you're also kind of grabbing some of that middle section so that you're matching the right side length to the middle. Then we will do the exact same thing for the left section of his head so that we ensure that the whole top of his head is all cut even to a finger in length. Now here is what I'm gonna do is basically just match the top length to the crown area. So I'm gonna just grab a small section at a time and then just matching it up to the top length. Then after that, I'm just pretty much gonna blow dry the hair really dry, and be sure you do it really dry, because when we start doing our clipper work, our clippers tend to cut a lot more cleaner when the hair is really dry. And now for the debulking phase, I will grab my 1.5 clip with the lever all the way open, and what I'm gonna do is just basically debulk all this unwanted hair around the area where I will be laying down my guidelines. So it will be right here above the ear, maybe about 2 fingers above the ear. And all we're doing is basically taking out all this unwanted hair so that it's not hanging over so much when you're coming in and setting in your guidelines with the clipper and no guard. And since we are doing a low fade, make sure that when you're debulking, you kind of imitate that first line that you will be setting and make sure that it curves down to the back of his head. So for our first guideline, what I'm gonna do is come in with the clipper no guard and the lever closed all the way to a true 0. And then I'm gonna start laying down my first guideline, probably a finger above the ear. And then I'm gonna just make sure that it curves down towards his temple area, and as well as it curving down towards the back nape or the top of his neck area. And then I'm gonna just ensure that I lay down as clean as possible, making sure that it ends up at the same spot but on the opposite side of his head. The shape of the fade will depend on this first guideline, so be sure you lay it down as clean and as even as possible. Next, what I'm gonna do is open that lever on that clipper all the way open to lay down our next guideline. And like I said guys, before setting in this guideline, be sure that your first line is even from the front and the back side before laying this one down. And for this one, we're only gonna come up about a ½ inch to a finger in length above the previous guideline that we set. And all we're doing is making sure that it just runs parallel to that first guideline. Also keep in mind, guys, that all these steps that I am using, and as well as with the tools that I'm using in this video, I will leave down in the description for y'all to check out. Now once you have ensured that you laid down this next guideline in finger length all around the head, we'll move on to the next guideline. For the next one, what I'm gonna do is grab the one guard while still leaving that lever all the way open to come in and lay down our next guideline. And also, guys, same like before, we're only coming up about a finger in length as well, and then just making sure that it runs parallel to the previous two guidelines so that we have that even fade setup. Keep in mind, guys, that when working with young kids, it's a good idea to kind of speed up your process a little bit more, only because they kind of tend to get a little more fidgety and frustrated the longer you take with them. But I mean, I try to work a little faster while still kind of making sure that I lay down my guidelines as straight and clean as possible. So next, I'm gonna grab the number 2 guard, and I'm gonna still leave that lever all the way open. And again, like before, we're coming up about another finger in length from the previous guideline. But when you're about here in this area, just kind of be careful, since this is where the head starts to kind of round out towards the top of his head. So be sure that when you're laying it down, you're kind of, in a sense, kind of sculpting it out, and you're moving upwards in a vertical manner so that you don't dig in too much to the top. Next, I'm gonna grab my number 3 guard with the lever all the way open to kind of start trying to connect the side length to the top. For that, I like to use kind of a comb so you can kind of see the direction that you want to go with your clipper, and just kind of basically imitate that comb so that you can try to connect that side length to the top without kind of digging in too much into the top. And be sure that when you're laying down these guidelines, guys, and doing the hair cutting, make sure that you're keeping a brush or a comb to always continually be brushing away the hair so that you always maintain that clean workspace, and you kind of see these guidelines being set in, and you could clearly see them being blended out. So for the rest of the hair that needs to be kind of blended into the top, what I'm gonna do is use my clipper over comb technique, and all we're doing is kind of imitating the side of his head in a vertical manner, and then we're just gonna pull it up, and anything that the comb grabs is what we will trim away so that we can blend in the side to the top as smooth as possible. So now, as you see here, we're left with our 3 guidelines that need to be blended. We'll start with that uppermost guideline and then work our way down. For that top guideline, I'm gonna use the 1.5 clip, open that lever to about 3/4, and that all that is basically the lever positioned in between the lever all the way open and halfway open. And I'm gonna use that position to start trying to blend out that uppermost guideline as smooth as possible into the top. And keep in mind, guys, that if you feel that when you start kind of cutting into that guideline and it's not doing any cutting, then you could go ahead and kind of close the lever a little bit at a time until you start actually seeing that line being blended out. For me, I feel like that lever position to about 3/4 seems to always kind of do the job, but in some cases I will need to kind of open it or close it a little bit more here and there to kind of help me finish taking out that guideline. And now for that middle guideline, I'm gonna grab the half clip and I'm gonna still leave that lever position to 3/4. And we're gonna start working on that middle guideline. I got asked before on some of my videos about how high or how much to go across that line to blend it out, and all you're basically doing is just overlapping that line. You're not gonna go too high or too little. You're only gonna just cross that line and just smoothen it up as much as possible. But do keep in mind that in this step you'll see that I'm kind of still leaving a little dark area above this line that I'm taking out, but don't try and chase it with this guard because you will take the fade up too high. Like I said, just kind of blend right there, just where that line is initially at, and then everything else that's left behind will come back with a little higher guard to finish taking it out. So for now, just keep it at 3/4 and then just soften that middle guideline as much as possible right there where it's at. For better reference, you kind of think of yourself trying to stay under that guideline that we had laid down with the one guard lever all the way open. So like I said, that dark area that was left behind is when I'm gonna come in with that one guard lever position to 3/4, and all we're doing now is finishing taking out that middle guideline and blending it up to the top of the head. And really quick guys, thank y'all to everybody that's been purchasing our merchandise and our tools at fadedculture.co. And for everyone that's been asking, we will be restocking on the barber capes as well as with the Turkish razors here pretty soon. And also stay tuned because we will be dropping some sweaters for this cold season. And now we're pretty much left with our last guideline. For this one, it's gonna take 3 lever positions. First starting with the clipper lever closed, then you open it halfway, and then you open it all the way, moving up a tad bit at a time until you blend out that guideline into the rest of the blend. So first you'll see that here it's with the clipper lever closed, and I'm gonna just kind of blend right there where the initial start of it is. And then I'm gonna just open that lever halfway, move up a little bit higher, and then after that I'm gonna just open that lever all the way and then trying to finish connecting that first guideline into the blend. Keep in mind that with this last step I like to kind of break down the head into smaller sections since it does take 3 lever positions to blend out this last guideline. So first right here you see that I'm kind of just blending out the right side of his head, and then I'm gonna just move into the back right quadrant of his head, and again starting with that clipper lever closed, then we open it halfway and then we open it all the way until that line is blended out as much as possible. And then we'll just move forward with repeating the process on the back left quadrant, and then we'll move to the left side of his head to finish blending out that guideline. Keep in mind guys that this that here you will kind of see some dark areas still left above that guideline that we're blending out. But don't, like before, don't go up trying to chase it too much. Just blend out that first guideline as much as possible, and then we'll come back and do our touch-up work after this with that half clip open to 3/4. So now see here that we're done, those little dark areas is what we're gonna come back and do our touch-up work on. So I'm gonna grab that half clip and I'm gonna position that lever to 3/4, and all I'm doing is looking for those little inconsistencies or dark spots in the fade, and I'm gonna just come in using kind of the corners of the clipper so that I can kind of get in there in a more detailed fashion, and then just try to blend them out as much as possible to smooth out the fade as much as possible. And if you feel like you need to open or close the lever from that 3/4 position, then do so, as every head is kind of going to be different depending on how coarse or dense his hair is. But starting with that lever at 3/4 will always be a good starting point to kind of guide you and help you measure what you will need to finish blending it out. So next, to move on and take out the bottom of the hair, first I will come in with my trimmer upside down and kind of push on top of that bottom of the hair downwards. And I'm doing this because this does leave a bolder guideline. And then I'm gonna just flip the clipper right back into its upright position and kind of blend in that bald guideline into the fade. And I first do it like this upside down because when I come back and take out the rest of the hair with the trimmer, you'll be able to differentiate a guideline, a little faint line that will be left behind, and it's gonna serve as another guideline to help us measure how high to come up with our electric shaver, so that we don't shave up too much into the blend, creating harsh lines that need to be blended out. So as you see here, now that I'm taking out the rest of the bottom of the hair, you'll be able to see that little faint line that I was talking about right there. So then we'll just proceed with shaving out the rest of the bottom of the hair so that we can get it down to the skin. So using these shavers as they were a pair of clippers, as you reach that little faint line that we left behind, be sure that you kind of release pressure on the skin so that we don't create too much of a harsh line on top. You're kind of using them as if they were a pair of clippers, and then you're kind of just blending upwards into the fade. But if you do happen to leave a little dark line above, you can always just come back with your trimmers and then just kind of blend it right back out. And really quick guys, I want to apologize because I did not record when I lined up the C-cup area with the clipper, but all I did was just line up the edges of the C-cup and then with the trimmer before I came in with my straight razor. For the straight razor, I applied some shaving gel so that we don't create that or don't cause any skin irritation, and then just tug on the skin so you can create that tension, and then it'll help you kind of glide that blade through the hair, resulting in that clean shave. So first I shave downwards all that peach fuzz, and then I'll shave up against the hard line so that we can sharpen it up as much as possible. But that's pretty much it guys for this tutorial. Next I will just apply a little bit of a matte clay all over the top of his head, and then just kind of style it and play with the hair until I find a desired look that I'm happy with. So really quick, here's the before and here's the after. I hope y'all guys really enjoyed this tutorial on a low skin fade with a shortcut on top with scissors. And if y'all did, please give it a thumbs up and let me know y'all's thoughts down in the comments. Also, let me know what other videos y'all like us to go over on this channel. Again, guys, thank y'all for watching. My name is Sergio Barron. This is Faded Culture, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.